What up? What up? What up? Ibn Webb, Ib Webb, Korin is some here official thanks thing I have going down here. Korin Campbell, you know, owner, doing a lot of work, as far as community and beyond, as far as just providing service to individuals and families as a whole, and just everything else she got going on with herself here. So when I had the opportunity to hear her name, I was just like, put me in touch with her and had these conversations here. So just looking forward to hear a little bit about her walk, and we're just gonna go from there. Hold tight. Hello, how are you?
How good? How are you?
Good, good, good. Nah, thank you for taking some time out to do this, and I'm very, very appreciative of this. So you don't know how much I am. So I'm really happy that you was able to squeeze me in here with everything you got
Oh,
going.
I apologize if there's any background noise. There are little people here, but
Oh no, we can work around. We work with little people. We good. We can balance this out.
okay,
Nah,
beautiful.
cool. As I shared with you, this is something, I just picked up probably a little over a year, so a little over a year as far as the opportunity to just talk with people, hear a little bit about their walk, what have you here. So nothing heavy, heavy duty, nothing. I ain't running to, TMZ unless you give me something TMZ worthy, they throw me a couple of bucks. Nah, I'm messing with you. But just have an opportunity just to hear about, a little bit about you and what you got going on here. So I appreciate it.
Okay,
Cool, cool.
sounds
So
good.
just kind of jumping into it. I just now you from Connecticut, born, raised, what have you?
I am born and raised in Connecticut, in
Okay.
Hartford. Yep.
Okay. Okay. What kind of kid were you?
Hmm,
Oh, you got to think about that.
I I think I was a pretty good kid. Growing up, I had two older brothers,
Okay.
and so I was the baby, and the baby, the only girl.
Hmm.
I wasn't getting away with anything.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember, growing up, my parents, we would travel everywhere. Everywhere we went was by car so that we could see things, we could, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Nah. Travel by car. You just mentioned one of three siblings here, so you must have got stuck with that middle seat quite often.
Um, Quite a lot. Yes. So growing up until I was about mm, 20, 20, maybe 24.
Hmm.
So growing up, so I have two biological brothers,
Okay.
older, and then I have three adopted sisters.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And that didn't happen until, yeah, I was maybe 24. The oldest one of those three is
Hmm.
25.
Okay. All
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah. Nah.
yeah.
Nah. Nah. I hear you here. Like as far as activities, you what interest, first loves as far as activities and things you had as a kid that you gravitated to?
So I was a cheerleader for like our town,
Hmm.
little league cheerleading. I played in the band when I was
Okay.
little. I did ballet when I was little.
Hmm.
Um, my parents tried to keep us busy doing, something.
Hmm.
Um,
Nah.
yeah.
Nah. That's interesting. As far as with all that stuff, did anything just one of those things you just kind of honed in and locked in on? Like this is what I want to do, or did something else just come along the way as far as what you saw yourself doing? As an adult.
No.
Okay.
When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a nurse.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I always wanted to be a nurse, and I'd play with my girlfriends and we'd play with our dolls, and I wanted to be a nurse. I can't stand needles.
Ooh.
As an adult, I don't like them. So as I got older, I realized I don't think I want to do that. But how I ended up being, in the field of social work was when I had my daughter, and I had her when I was 19. And back then they had a program called Urban Parents as Paraprofessionals.
Hmm.
And I did that program with her, being a young parent with her. And as a part of that, we had to do um, um, like a internship, so to speak.
Okay.
And that's how I sort of got into it. And I said, oh, I like that. And then I went back to school and went to Manchester and got my associate's degree. So that's how I ended up in this field, but that's not what I wanted to do when I was little.
Okay. And
Mhm.
then ultimately, like you just said, you ended up doing some social work there. But even before getting to all that, just being a mom, I just gotta ask. Like, again, I'm probably gonna get the traditional answer, but I'm gonna ask anyway. How did you do it with school and just pushing to be a better you as well?
My parents were very helpful. So when
Mhm.
I had my daughter, and I was 19 going on 20, I still lived at home. So my parents were very helpful, so that I could go to work, so that I could go to school.
Mm.
Um, I do owe all of that to them, helping me with that. And then I got married young. I got married at 22.
Okay.
And so when I got married, okay. When I got married at 22, then my husband's mom would help out with the kids.
Mm.
But really, my parents were like a huge support.
Okay.
So, yeah, they were a huge support for me. So that's how I was able to swing that.
Now, now interesting because you said you went to Manchester Community College too. You said
I
so.
went there first.
Then you went
I
there
went
to a
there.
4-year school, then grad school. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, yep. So I went to Manchester. It took a while. I got my associate's degree and then I left there and went to Springfield College and got my bachelor's in human services. And then
Mhm.
we moved to Maryland and I lived in Maryland for a while. And I actually started grad school in Maryland
Mhm.
um, when I was pregnant with my youngest, but it was just too much. It was
Okay.
too much to commute from Maryland, down to the metro to take the train into Howard.
Mm.
Um, so I did uh, yeah, I wouldn't even, I did a couple months. Let's just did a
Okay.
couple months. And then I came back here in 2002. I moved back to Connecticut and then I started grad school in 2005.
Mm. Nah,
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, journey took you out of state, back here in Connecticut, and just still out of here. Now I know. With social work, what was it about it that you wanted to just be in that line of work?
It's it because all of my work was in residential. So when I came back home to Connecticut and I was working in residential. So I've
Hmm.
always enjoyed working with young people, working in residential. And I think I had applied when I first came back. I applied to DCF and I couldn't get in.
Okay.
And back then, it was like the state was the hardest thing to get into,
Hmm.
um, and so I couldn't get in. And so I worked residential, and I just enjoyed it. I just had this connection with young people, and maybe it was still because I was still like late 20s.
Okay.
Um, but I did that. And then finally, after I finished and got my bachelor's, I realized there's not much I can do with that. There was so much more I wanted to do. And then when I started working for DCF, I realized I need to go back and get a master's degree.
Okay.
And so that's why I went back and did that because I just knew that there was so much I wanted to do. Um, and I knew that I needed to have that master's to do it.
Mm.
So
Nah, interesting, and I know the demands of the job that you're talking about, but you talked about there was stuff that you wanted to do. Was it eventually just doing your own thing?
it was, but it was not right away. When I first came back to Connecticut, I actually wanted to open a daycare. I
Okay.
always wanted to be my own boss. And I
Hmm.
wanted to open a daycare not because I wanted to work in it, I wanted to run it. I
Hmm.
knew that I don't have the patience. I just don't have the patience for all the little people yelling, screaming, but I wanted to run it. I wanted to be my own boss. I didn't want anyone to tell me what to do and when I could come and when I could go. And that just didn't pan out for me. And so, I worked other jobs until I started working um, for DCF. But even while working for DCF, I was working for Mobile Crisis. And
Hmm.
so I did Mobile Crisis for about maybe 4 years. And in 2017, my then supervisor had said to myself and someone else, she said, there aren't many clinicians of color. you know,
Hmm.
you guys should open like your own practice. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to do private practice.
Hmm.
Wasn't sure if it was something I wanted to do, but then we were like, yeah, let's try it. And so in 2017, I started private practice, and it's just been going ever since. But then in 2020, someone approached me and needed to be supervised.
Hmm.
And at that point, I said, this is when I'll get my LLC and I will, branch out a little more and, make it an actual business, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, and so at the end of 2020, that's when I got my LLC.
What was it? I mean, because you talked about wanting to be your own boss and everything else. Who instilled that in you? Where did it come from?
So I want to say my dad is very, really hardworking, and
Mm.
he's always instilled, probably more so in me being growing up being the only girl, that you need to know how to stand on your own 2 feet.
Mhm.
So I needed to know how to stand on my own 2 feet, how to take care of me and my kids, because in the event I'm ever by myself, I need to be able to take care of myself and
Mhm.
not feel dependent on anyone else. My parents never wanted us to feel like we needed to depend on them or anyone else to do what we needed to do. And I always would tell them that that is, um, it's a good thing, but it also has some downfalls to it because it instills in me that I can do it. I don't need you,
Mhm.
which is not necessarily true, but you start to believe that that's how it is because I am so strong willed and I am a hard worker and I have a strong work ethic. Um, I sometimes feel like, oh, well, if you don't do it, I got it. I can do it, you know, and that's not always a good thing,
Mhm.
so I'm trying to learn how to sort of take a step back and not always feel like I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to do it.
Mhm.
And it's hard. So
Yeah. Nah, the
it's
whole
hard.
while in that whole gotta do it phase though that you had to do, you kind of had a mentality to get things up and running as far as this LLC. Like, what was some of the hurdles, if any, that you had this, not only forming it but getting it running? Like, what was some of the things that you just look back like, wow, I got through that?
So in starting just in private practice, I remember a friend of mine, and I still consider her my partner. Um, we had no idea what we were doing.
Mhm.
So in terms of we didn't know the process to get credentialed. Like, what do we do? And the good thing was that she worked for an agency where her supervisor also was in private practice. So we could ask questions of her and she'd tell us how to navigate. But once we started getting clients, we didn't know how to bill.
Mhm.
It was like the blind leading the blind, so to speak. And what I've learned is that I mean, I write everything down. Um, but it just would have been nice if we had people there to say, let me show you how to do that. And even
Mhm.
now that I decided to become an LLC, I actually had to go online and Google how to become an LLC in Connecticut, how to obtain it.
Mhm.
And that's what I did in order to figure out how to get my LLC here in Connecticut. And I just, Googled it and followed those steps to do that. Um, and then it was just a matter of you know having a space and leaving the office that I was at and moving to a bigger space,
Mhm.
and everything was just sort of, I guess I would say, walking by faith, and just jumping out there and hoping that I don't drown
Right.
in the process, because there wasn't anyone really there to say this is how you do it. Google has been my friend, and you know
Yeah,
I
I hear
use
you.
it. Hmm. Hmm.
Outside of the googling and everything else, but when you got the keys just basically to that bigger space and this business is up and running. I mean, I know that just had to be an accomplishment in itself, but I know the work really begins now. So I'm sure you just had to just take all that on.
I did. And just, I think, learning, and again it goes back to um being, doing everything
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm.
And so learning how to delegate
Yeah.
and asking other people to help me, can you do this? Um, and trying not to be afraid that, will they mess up? Do they know what they're doing? Are they going to do it how I'm going to do it?
Right. Right.
Um, because in my mind, I know how I want things. And, you know, I want people to see things how I see it. And what I've learned is that when you're running a business, you can't do it all. You have to delegate. You have
Mhm.
to find other people to do some of those things that you can't do.
Mhm.
um and so I am learning. My daughter works for me, and she does all my administrative stuff. She does all the billing, and she'll say to me, checks will come in, or I'll have some explanation of benefits, and I'm like, oh well, I'm not doing anything, I will just sit here and go in and put them in. She's like, Mom, I got it, just give it to me. If you do it, what will I do? And I'm like,
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
because in my mind, I'm like, I have to make sure that it's done. Did it get done? And so I am learning to delegate and ask people to do things. I've had to be very transparent. I feel like, and I've had other jobs, and not just state jobs, but I've worked for other people who have run their businesses, and I've seen how things are done, and how,
Hmm.
is that how you really run your business? And I don't want to be like that. And I've learned I've had to be very transparent. And so I'm very open to a certain degree with my staff. And I will apologize if I've made a mistake or
Hmm.
if something's happened, because ultimately they could say, oh my God, we don't want to work for her, and leave me. And they have not done that. And so I'm very appreciative of that, and I'm very transparent. And I think, had I not been, I think things could be different. And they would say, I don't want to work for her. She's not
Hmm.
transparent. She's not honest. And so I try to be transparent and honest, and with whatever is happening. But it is a lot of work. And in doing that, because it is, a mental health program that we're running, so we're doing individual therapy and family therapy. We also work with the homeless population,
Hmm.
and so we go into the shelters and we work with those families and provide mental health services for them. So now I am have founded a nonprofit, and the goal of that nonprofit is to provide all of the wraparound services to those families, but also to whoever else might be in need of some of those things. And so, again, I am starting to realize, wow, this is a lot of work. It's
Hmm.
rewarding, but it's a lot of work. It is.
Nah, nah.
It is.
And just hearing you, I mean, delegating. And when it's like you said, when it's your creation, your brainchild, you want it done a certain way. But you loosen up a tiny bit. You don't lose the core of what you want to get going, but you do lose because folks are going to do things how they seem fit, to your directives. But still, in all, you just mentioned the situation with your daughter talking about, Ma, I got this. Cool out. I got this. Pretty much is so. It's tough here. It's interesting. I know some of the work that you do. You mentioned the homeless here. We're approaching these cold months. Is any new like
Mhm.
initiatives or anything out there like as far as to better keep them, safe and warm this upcoming winter and beyond, to be honest.
So there will be, the warming centers will open,
Hmm.
and so the shelters will operate a warming center. And so this past year, we actually did an MOU with the Salvation Army to
Okay.
provide mental health services to the families in the warming center that was on Vine Street in Hartford. The hope is that they will reach out to us again and say, "Hey, can you guys provide that mental health treatment for us, to our families?" And so we go into the warming center, and we provide the traditional mental health services to those families who might be in need. The goal is that when beds open up in the shelter, then those families move out of the warming center and go into a bed in the shelter. Um, and so that's where it is at right now. I don't know, because I haven't heard anything, what it will look like
Hmm.
right now come when the cold weather protocol goes into effect, and that's usually in November. Um, but the hope is that they'll reach out. And so because we're starting the nonprofit, I'm actually um, going to start a couple fundraisers to
Okay.
start, bringing in some money for the nonprofit, but also one of those fundraisers will be a coat drive. Um, I would like to do have also an underwear drive, a toiletry drive, anything that people have that they want to donate that
Mhm.
would help those who are in need. And it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who is living in the shelter. We could have people that we see all the time for regular therapy and come to find out their kids don't have coats for the winter.
Right. Right.
Or there were donations that we got earlier in the year or last year, lots of baby clothes that we have. So I have been putting feelers out there to people, that if they have whatever they have that they want to donate, we never know who might be in need of something. Sometimes we're thinking just the homeless population, but there are people who live in houses already or apartments, and they don't have some of those basic needs.
Mhm.
Um, and so I have flyers that I'm going to be putting up. I'm going to have someone posting them around in Hartford and different places. I'm looking to do a fundraiser at Dom's Eatery here in Windsor to sort of bring in some money and donations, but just looking for people to donate whatever they have that we can have on hand for when people aren't, looking for something, because the nonprofit is going to actually be in Hartford. And
Mhm.
so we're going to be on Park Street. And so
What's the name of it?
it's Alternative Roots Incorporated.
Okay.
And so we're going to be right on Park Street, right above Hispana Vision. And so hopefully, and we move in October. And so once we move in and we're in, the goal will be that, we're right here, right? Because
Mhm.
this is the population that we serve. And so I felt like we needed to be where they are. We need to be in Harvard. And so we're going to hopefully be able to keep our space here in Windsor and do our traditional, outpatient, but then the nonprofit will work out of Hartford. And then if people are walking by or they see us, walking the street, we're right here.
Mhm.
And we have to be where our people are. And so I felt it was really important to have a space in Hartford.
Oh no, that
And
makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, and not only where your people are, but the people want to work and get treated ideally by somebody that looks and reflects them. And,
mhm.
and that's relatable. So no, I totally understand that. One thing I love that you didn't say the name of is your for profit, the Second Chances, correct?
Second Chances LLC, yes.
Now,
Mhm.
again, is there, besides just the name and what it means, is there a different meaning as to how come you came up with that name?
So I chose Second Chances, and originally when I say it, people are like, well, people need a first chance. And I'm like, right. But when I thought about it that everyone deserves a second chance, right?
Mhm,
That we've all been out here and things have happened and we've messed up. And
mhm,
now I deserve a second chance, right? And so I thought of the name Second Chances, and on the back of the business cards, it says everyone deserves a second chance.
mhm.
Um, and so, yes, there are people who need a first chance, but I was looking at it in the sense that most of us have gone out here and we've
Yes.
done things and we've messed up, and someone said, no, I'm not going to help you, or I'm not going to work with you. And we're like, well, why not? And I think back when just getting into this field and looking for a job, and the first thing people say to you is, well, you don't have any experience. Well,
Right.
how am I going to get it if you don't give it to me?
Mhm.
Right? Why not? Give me a chance. Right? Um, and so that's what I thought about when I thought of second chances. And then when it came down to alternative routes, um, I thought about it and I just said, wow, what do I want? And so people ask me, why did you pick that? And the reason why I picked alternative routes is that there is always a different way to get to the same outcome, right?
Right.
You might
That's
go
right.
left, I
That's
might
right.
go right, and we might end up back at the same place. And so there are always a different route to get to where you need to be. And so that's why I chose alternative route for the nonprofit. And so we want to be able to touch I say everyone. I know it may not be realistic, but then again, it could be, you
Mhm.
know, because there's so many things that I want to be able to provide and offer, and I've asked my staff to brainstorm. What do you see that we could provide to those that are, living in and around Hartford? And, we talk about the gun violence
Yeah.
and providing services, not necessarily, but for the not always the victims of it, but the people who are perpetrating the violence and why. You know, IPV, providing services for that, substance abuse, financial literacy. We're in a place now where people are working, you know, you work for the state. We made good money working for the state. And then you want to go and find a place to live and you can't afford to live in it,
Mhm.
you know? And so helping people to be more financially stable and not like financial planning, but to have someone come in and talk about some, just budgeting and
Right.
different things like that. So I want to be able to provide all of those different services.
Mhm.
Will it take some time? It will, just getting things off the ground, but we're in the brainstorming phase right now. And so, but we're trying to get those things off the ground and started. So definitely.
Nah, what have you seen as far as what's been one of the main issues families and or individuals have been coming to you for to get treated on? Has it been like something recently that's just been going on? Has it been something longer than that?
Um, a lot of it is, as you know, mental health is on the rise right now. And
Mhm.
I think it's maybe COVID related or, because COVID has made it where people have not been able to work. But we've seen a lot of people, we get a lot of calls for people who are struggling with just maintaining or
Mm.
depression, anxiety. Now that school's back in session, we are getting more calls for kids.
Mhm.
Um, who are in need. We've gotten a lot of calls for like social skills groups for the young people, which we're starting to see, which is probably because these kids were online for a year and not socializing and not
Right.
interacting, engaging with other people. And so um, those are some of the things. And I mentioned, we go into the family shelters, but I also go in when I can get there into the men's shelter in New Britain. And one of the things that I was told is that the staff are seeing is that the men are really presenting with a lot of depression and a lot of stuff. And so it's nice to have someone coming in. And so I'm actually having one of my staff do a survey so that we could do a needs assessment of what do the men need in
Mhm.
the shelter. And so that we can sort of help support them and provide services to them. Because I feel like we go into the family shelter, both of the CRT and Salvation Army family shelters, and I go into the men's shelter, but sometimes those are the ones that get neglected. The men sort of get sort
Yeah.
of left out. And so I'm gonna try and figure out what some of their needs are. And
Yeah, I could clearly. I mean, some of it, obviously being in shelter environment, the
Mhm,
stigma tied around men as far as having to be the stoic and provider and everything else, and being in the shelter is the complete opposite of that. And I think,
mhm,
being able to show their vulnerability. I mean, I know, history says that we shouldn't show our vulnerability, but we're vulnerable, and I mean, it sounds like the work you're looking to do here, you can, be able to open some of these individuals up and talk more about that so they could get in a better space.
mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. So once we're able to sort of assess what the need is,
Hmm.
then we can go in maybe
Yeah.
once a month and do a group with the men,
Mm.
and provide services to them. Um, and and what I've noticed is I'm starting to go to different networking events and
Mm.
for small business owners and starting to get myself out there to meet people, to
Nice.
start networking, um, getting the name out.
Hmm.
It's all about the marketing and the brand, so to speak. My daughter, I last December, I did like a holiday luncheon,
Okay.
and I got everyone a coat that said Second Chances on it. So that when they're out and people are like, oh, what's Second Chances? Someone finally asked me at the bank 2 weeks ago, what is Second Chances? And I go to the bank at least a couple times a week. When I pull up, they're like, hi, Corinne. Now they know who I am. And they finally, for the first time, asked, what's Second
Wow.
Chances?
Hmm.
Y- you know? And or if my daughter's out and she's in her sweatshirt, they might ask, or she's wearing the coat, they might ask, what do you do? What do you do? Um, and so just trying to get the word out, get who we are out, trying to network with other people. Um, and but I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Uh, Staff wise, how many have you on staff right now? I know it continues to grow here. Where are you at now?
So we are at 7,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
all women,
Mm-hmm.
all women, um, all African American except for one.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yep, except for one. And it sort of threw me because when I interviewed her and I'm talking to her on the phone, and I was like, okay. And then she came in and I was like, oh, okay. You know, but all women, I do have a guy who is interested and wants to come on board. And I think it would be really good to have a male on staff,
Mm-hmm.
especially if we start working with more men so that the men can have someone to relate to. Just like us as women,
That's right.
we want to have a woman to relate to and someone that looks like us. Men want to have someone that they can relate to and someone that, you know, looks like them. So, but so far, I mean, I do, like I said, I do have someone who wants to come on board. I just want to make sure that before we do that, that I got stuff for you to do, So it's ever growing. I am not as creative in my mind as I think. So I do um, pick my staff's brains and they really help me with that. Oh, we should do this or think about that. Or what do you think about doing this?
Right.
So, um, yeah, so that's
That's all right. And how much pride is it just to see kind of where you started, where you at, and then you mentioned your staff even being predominantly black here. Like that's got to be a sense of feeling good, but also not just because of their color, but I'm sure they're being effective as well.
I feel like I feel we've come a long way. I feel like, but we're still growing.
Okay.
Of course, nowhere where we would like to be. I think if we're able to maintain and keep both spaces here in Windsor and have the space in Hartford, that would be amazing.
Mm,
It's hard when you're running like a traditional, like outpatient therapy program because people come and go, right? And that being could be the basis of your income. And when people don't come, you're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And that's why I'm I say we have to have other things to do. We have to have other streams of income so that there's always money coming in and
hmm.
always different things that we can do that shows that we are important and we're
Yes.
out here in the community. You
Hmm.
know, we can get out and walk the streets, you
Hmm.
know, passing out flyers or outreaching to different organizations and telling them who we are and what we do and why we're here. One of the things that we do here in Windsor is we have, like, if someone comes in for a session and they have a child, bring them with you. We have a space where they can sit and watch TV.
Hmm.
Or you might actually want to meet with your family or client in that room on the couch in front of the TV. Maybe you guys want to watch something together. Maybe you don't want to just do traditional talk therapy. I've come to the realization that it is therapy reimagined. It is COVID has shifted the
Yes.
way we look at therapy. And as a provider, I would have never people have never have would have never seen my kids ever. I did a session yesterday. I had to bring the 3-year-old to the
Mhm.
point where they know who he is, they know his name. He comes in the room, they say hi to him, they high five him. Some people will be okay with that and other people will not. And I always preface it with, we can do this virtually. However, I have to bring the little person to work today. They're like, it's okay,
Mhm.
to the point where he'll be behind me on virtual sessions. Like, it's okay. 2 years ago, you would not have been able to do that. And so I have now come to the realization that it's therapy reimagined. It is not the traditional way we look at therapy, in
Mhm.
the sense that, no, my kids aren't going to be sitting on the couch with us all the time during therapy, but one might walk by and you might see them, or they might walk into the room and they might say hi, and then I have to put them out. And for the most part, people have been really understanding
Mhm.
of that. Um, and it is what it is. But I created that space so that you could bring your kids if you had to.
Right.
If we have to bring our kids, there is a space for them to be able to watch TV, be quiet, so that you can do what you need to do. Because the biggest reason why people don't come to therapy is because they don't have childcare and they don't have anyone to watch their kids. So bring them with you.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is what it is. It's a part of life.
Nah, you're
So
right. And making things as accommodating as possible. To your point,
mm,
your traditional, therapy, has somewhat, it hasn't gone away, but it's been altered and created a little differently, and it's still just as effective depending on who's providing the service as well too. So you got to get creative in your approaches, which I think, with this pandemic or what have you here has helped. If there was
yes.
somewhat of a positive, and which has gotten more people actually to want to seek some, alternative treatment.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so my hope will be, when we move into the space in Hartford, that I would like to have access to an APRN
Mhm.
or a psychiatrist for medication so that we can refer our people to someone, um, you know, that we have access to, so that we don't say, oh, we'll go to CHR because we can't help you
Mhm.
here with that. We want to be able to have access to that. Um, you know, so just brainstorming what the need might be and then trying to provide those services,
Yeah.
you know. So
Nah, most definitely here. Even the life that you have now, as far as the owner, business owner, what have you here, what has it provided you? uh, You know, nowadays.
freedom. and
Mhm. Mhm.
and I say that because I knew that I was going to at some point leave my job. So I left the state in 2019 and I went to a school. I went to a private school because I wanted to be able to have my summers free.
Mhm.
And I said, oh, if I go and work in a school, I'll have my summers off and I can do whatever with my kids. That was the plan. And so in 2019, I left DCF and I went to a private school. And then COVID hit and then we were out. And then last year, because of COVID still kind of crazy, my kids were still out. Being the school social worker in the private school, they came and they said, we need to make some budget cuts. We have to cut some programs or cut some stuff. We're going to cut the social worker. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, wow, how do you cut the school social worker?
Right.
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 But I worked in a private Jewish school. So I figured there was only one other person that looked like me, and it was the janitor. So, okay. And so I said, it's all right. I said, I understand. But while in the process of that, I was already thinking, maybe I won't go back that following school year. Maybe I will branch out and just do my own thing. And then in May, my mom went into the hospital and she passed away. But before she passed away, she asked me, am I going to look for another job? And I said, no, I'll make it work. I'm going to make this work.
Mhm.
And when she passed away unexpectedly, it was as if it was meant to be. Like it was supposed to happen this way for me to be home or have the flexibility to do whatever, to be there to help my dad, to be there for my three sisters and, support them, but also for my own kids because I have three adult kids. and I have grandchildren, and then I have
Hmm.
younger kids that I am raising. Um, I said, this is how it was supposed to be. So even though when I found out they weren't going to renew my contract, I was a little disappointed because I think I wanted to quit first and
Yeah.
that didn't happen. I was a little disappointed, but then I said, it happened how it was supposed to.
Mm.
I would not change it. This has been amazing. I
Yes.
enjoy the flexibility, the freedom. If I decide tomorrow when I get up, because I do have a part-time job that I do, and once things get really going, I plan to walk away from that. It's a telehealth job. But if I woke up tomorrow morning and I said, I just don't feel like doing that 10 o'clock appointment, I just call and cancel. Or there are days I don't have anything necessarily when I say anything to do. I may not have any clients.
Right.
I could just sit on my couch
Hmm.
or I'm doing some administrative something,
Hmm.
you know. So I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
No,
It's so
absolutely.
freeing.
Nah, nah, absolutely. I mean, I guess getting let go. You know, you talked about you wanted to do it on. You know, they were just helping you speed up the process to be where you
Yeah.
at now. That's all that was.
Yep.
Nah, definitely, definitely. What I like to do on the back end of these things is just ask some random, not so random questions. Just have a little bit of fun if you're cool with that.
Okay, yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. So when driving, you prefer 84 or 91?
91.
91, okay. Now I know being in Windsor slash obviously Hartford's the city to go to probably growing up shopping or what have you. I mean, I didn't know if you was into trunk jewelry or anything. I didn't know if you so if that was the case though, would you prefer the Pavilion or Richardson Mall?
um, Richardson Mall.
Okay. Okay,
Man,
you have to think about that.
I miss downtown Hereford though.
Yeah, a
There's
lot of people do. A lot of people do.
because when we were younger, that's where we hung out.
Hmm.
That's where that's where we went. That everything was in downtown Hartford. Now
Yeah. Yeah.
we get lucky. I mean, everything is closing up.
I know, I know. Crazy, crazy. You're speaking of Hartford, West Indies Day Parade or on Constitution Plaza?
West Indian Day Parade, but not now. Not now. Back in the day,
Yeah,
yes. Now, no, I want to die.
nah, nah, got you. Um, radio stations 89.9 or 910 jams.
910 jams.
Okay, all right.
89.9 is too slow.
Too slow.
It's
All
too
right.
slow. It's slow.
Yeah, Mr. Pizza or Woodland Pizza.
Uh, oh wow. I'm gonna have to say Woodland.
I'm gonna change Woodland to Wilson. I'm gonna change. Actually, I'm gonna go to Wilson since you're in Windsor.
Then I'm gonna have to say Wilson
Okay.
before they changed owners. I've never ever had Mr. Pizza.
Really? Okay.
I have
Okay.
never had Mr. Pizza. I'm gonna have to get it.
Okay. All right. Nah. Definitely make a trip over
I'm gonna make a
the town
trip.
boy. Cool. Cool. Second chances or alternative routes.
Both.
That's cool. That's cool. We can go with that. Nah, absolutely, absolutely. Smart answer. Smart answer here. What's best part about being you?
Nobody can be me. Nobody has
You
my
know that's the song. We about
personality.
to I'll take it back to that once nobody could be you but you. Okay.
I I think I'm a good people person. I have a
Hmm.
good personality. Um, I mean, I got like 100 kids.
Yeah.
Some that I gave birth to, and some I adopted, and some that live here that aren't mine that won't leave.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I'm a nurturer.
Okay. Okay. I know you had a lot of moments here. Just at this point, what's three of your proudest moments in your life up to now? I know there's a bunch of them, but what's three of them that sticks out?
Um, my seeing my kids just grow up, my grandchildren, um, and just still being alive, I think.
Yeah. No, that's real. That's real. That's real. Oh,
Mhm.
a book on your life. What would you call it?
Mm, that's a crazy life you live.
That's a crazy life. Okay. Okay. All right. There it is. And as far as at this time, age in your life here, what advice would you give that 17, 18-year-old senior in high school, Corinne?
I would say I don't I want to say I don't know if I would change anything. I don't think I would change anything.
Hmm.
Um I don't. I don't think I would change anything because to change it means I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah. I hear you.
So I wouldn't change it.
Mm,
Despite, the good times, the bad times, I wouldn't change it.
yeah. What would your parents say about you now?
Um, they would say they are proud of me.
Hmm.
Um, that they are proud of the person I've become. I think, maybe some years ago they were like, I don't know. My mom would always say you went to school and got a degree and got a master's degree and whatever, whatever. But I think if she were here to see where my business has gotten to and where it's going, I think she'd be proud of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, that's good stuff. And lastly, what's next?
What's next? Well, I want to see both of these businesses grow, but most importantly, I am looking forward to my trip to the Bahamas for my birthday next month.
Absolutely. Well deserved. Well deserved. Corinne, I just want to say thank you and pardon my
Of
dry humor
course.
here for giving me a second chance because I know I missed the one time we supposed to meet up here. So pardon the dry humor on that one. That was just
Oh,
too
it's okay.
yeah, yeah. But I just thank you. You definitely like motivation to a lot of people and people you probably don't even realize that you are motivation to and inspiring to. I mean, do your thing, take a leap of faith, and just obviously just run with it and pretty much freestyle it a little bit because hey, till you figure it out. That's
Mhm.
what we got to do sometimes to, Wallman, you've done it and sustaining and actually expanding everything that you're doing. I just want to say, nah, thank you and giving me somebody else to be proud of and happy
Oh,
for here.
thank
So I
you.
just wanted to say nah, thank you and thank you for this opportunity. I know you withheld those kids because I know they're ready to get to you here. So but
No,
I
I think he went to sleep.
uh okay, okay. But thank you for this moment and I appreciate
Thank
it. And we'll
you.
definitely talk again as some things run by you here. But let's
Mhm.
first things first here. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for, wanting to talk to me.
Nah, this is
So
cool.
I appreciate it.
This is a blast. This is a blast. So we'll be in touch.
Sounds good.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Great stuff. One of the blessings of doing this, getting me individuals like Corinne, moves she making, and just while I'm standing on her own too, and just doing what she do here. Freedom, man. That's all we want when it's all said and done here in all capacities. But with that said, I'm just gonna step away. I put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.